Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. Recently, I was approved for a $52,000 personal loan through Sofi, and believe it or not, this wasn't my first attempt. It actually took me 4 times applying. I had been denied the first 3 times, but this time I finally figured out what makes Sofi say yes. It all came down to understanding how Sofi evaluates borrowers and how to structure your profile for approval, and how to avoid the red flags that can quietly ruin your chances before you even hit submit. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact step-by-step process that took me from application to full funding, including the credit score that I had, the income that I reported, and the timeline, and what you can do differently to get approved for your own Sofi loan. If that sounds like your goal, make sure you hit that subscribe button and don't miss any more valuable information like this in the future. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. To really understand how Sofi's approval process works, we first need to take a step back and look at what Sofi Bank actually is and how it actually operates. Sofi isn't your traditional brick and mortar bank. It started out as a fintech company focused on student loan refinancing, but over the years, it's evolved into a fully licensed online bank that offers everything from checking and savings accounts to credit cards, investing, and of course, personal loans. The key difference with Sofi is how they use technology and data to make lending decisions. Instead of relying solely on your credit score like many older banks do, Sofi's algorithm takes a holistic approach, meaning it looks at your income, your spending habits, your existing debt, and financial behavior to assess your overall stability. Think of it this way: most banks look at your credit score first and make a quick judgment. Sofi, on the other hand, looks at the full picture: how consistent your income is, how you manage your money, and whether your financial habits would suggest you can handle more credit responsibly. That's what makes Sofi both more flexible and more competitive than many traditional lenders. But it also means if you don't understand how their system evaluates risk, you can easily get denied even when you have a healthy credit score. So before we jump into the step-by-step process that I use to get approved, let's first break down what Sofi values most when deciding on who gets approved and who doesn't. While Sofi doesn't disclose an official minimum credit score, data would suggest that a minimum of around 650 to 680 would be best for a personal loan. Applicants with scores at the lower end of this range or lower may have a harder time getting approved for this loan, but I have seen people get approved that are in the mid 600s and their credit profile is well established and it's very clean. Let's start with income. They want to see consistent, verifiable income, not necessarily just high income. So it's recommended that your debt to income ratio is below 40%. This will give you the best odds. For your history, late payments should be older than 24 months if you have any late payments. And when it comes to utilization, the lower the better, ideally under 10%. Sofi's algorithm is about trust. They're asking, does this person have a track record of paying on time, and are they stretched too thin or not? Now let's discuss the data points that I used when I applied for this loan. My income was around $182,000 per year. I also want to note that if you have additional income and you don't get approved instantly, you'll want to go to the Sofi chat and you'll want to send them proof of that additional income. If you do not, you may get denied because they are not able to verify that you can qualify for this loan or pay it back based off of how much money that you make. So again, they only give you the option to upload 1 paycheck stub, I believe. So you'll definitely want to tell them that you have more income if you do. My credit score was around 816 with Experian and 809 with TransUnion. Now at the time, I forgot that both bureaus were unlocked, so I did receive a hard pull on both. So I recommend that you make sure all of them are frozen except Experian. I believe that's the primary pull. That way you could avoid a double pull like I did. So keep in mind that you can get pre-approved first, and I was pre-approved before I went ahead and pulled the trigger. My credit utilization was about 9%. I have no derogatory marks. As for my existing loans, I currently have 3, 1 with Navy Federal and 2 with Lightstream. I haven't had any new credit activity in the last 6 months as far as personal loans go, and I usually remove all my hard inquiries. Now, to most traditional banks, this would be a red flag. I did have recent debt and not exactly a DTI ratio that would suggest I could handle more on the personal side. However, the reason why I think it was different this time is because they pre-approved me in the Sofi app and actually gave me the offer of up to $70,000. SoFi's system had already reviewed my data through the soft pull and decided it was worth the risk. So let's talk about why my approval came in at $52,000 and not the $100,000 like the marketing would suggest. SoFi, like any lender, assigns what's called an internal exposure limit, the total amount that they're comfortable lending you across all products. This number depends on four major variables. First, your income. They typically cap your exposure based around your annual salary. So my $182,000 income minus my current outstanding debt is more than likely why they came up with the amount that they did. Which brings us to the second variable, debt to income ratio. They don't want your monthly debt payments exceeding 40% of your gross income, and I believe this is what made the difference. Third, your repayment history. Every on-time payment builds your credit score, and recently 2 of my current personal loans hit 10 months of on-time payments, and the first loan is almost 1 year. When I initially applied for this loan, again, I was denied the first 2 times, even with a 800 plus FICO score. So even if you have a score that's this high, you still won't get approved if their income or debt ratios don't support more lending. I truly believe that because of my current debts, I was not able to get approved in the past. However, I think now I have enough payment stability that shows that I might be worth the risk if I was able to properly handle this current debt that I already had. So let's strip away the marketing fluff for a minute and look at the real world data. SoFi currently will have loans that range from $5,000 up to $100,000, but their average funded loans sit at around $33,000. The average interest rate across borrowers is 14.9% for a 5-year term. Their advertising range is 8.99% to 35.49% APR, of course, depending on your credit profile. But that's just the base rate. You can actually stack discounts as well. You can get 0.25% for enrolling in autopay, 0.25% off for setting up direct deposit through SoFi Plus, and 0.25% for using their direct pay option to send funds straight to creditors. Those discounts can take a 12% offer down to 11.25% or lower, and over a 5-year term, that's a lot of money saved. As for repayment length, most people choose between 36 and 48 months, though SoFi does offer up to 84 months. But remember, shorter terms save you the most in total interest, even if your monthly payment is higher. I personally went for the 84-month term because I wanted to balance affordability up front since I usually pay off loans fairly quickly. Once you accept your offer, SoFi will take you through the online application. Now, here is what happens behind the scenes. Identity verification, they make sure your name, your address, and your social match up exactly with your credit report. Even one mismatch can trigger a manual review. Next will be income verification. Yes, they do ask you to verify your income. If you're a W-2 employee, your pay stubs or your bank deposits will usually suffice. If you're self-employed, be ready for a Schedule C or a tax transcript. I have an entire video that talks about creating your own paycheck stubs if you are self-employed and pay yourself as an employee of your company. If you guys want to watch that, I'm going to link it right here. I always recommend creating your own pay stubs as an employee for your company. It makes it so much easier when you're trying to get approved for things like a personal loan. Now, I do want to mention one thing when it comes to SoFi and your employer. They may ask you to verify your actual employment. For me personally, they did this. Now, if you are your own employer, then you can do this through your employee email, or you'll have to get your own employer to verify this information. You can contact your HR or whoever is in charge of that department to verify this. It's going to be a template that they're going to email you, and the email usually comes as soon as your application goes into review. Now, if you do not get an instant decision, I highly recommend you check this email. If you do not, your application will sit in a pending status for 30 days, and then your application will be declined. So if you're wondering why SoFi has not contacted you or why you've been in review for a very long time, then more than likely, that is the reason why it's taking so long. It's almost the reason for every scenario. You may also have to use your bank account linking, and SoFi will use Plaid to verify your account for funding. If that fails, they'll ask for a voided check or a bank letter, and that's another reason why delays might start. You'll also need to select the loan purpose. Whether you choose debt consolidation or home improvement actually does matter. Consolidation loans tend to get better terms because lenders see that as lower risk. My application took about 5 to 7 business days. The main reason was because I needed to verify my employer, and I didn't realize until I contacted Sofi and they told me that they were waiting for the employer verification. So while Sofi loves to advertise same-day funding, and yes, it does happen, it doesn't happen for everyone. Like I said, in my case, it did take a little while because of that additional verification. However, other borrowers have reported different timelines. Some say that it was 1 to 3 business days, and then some people say it's been up to 2 weeks. But again, there's usually a reason for that kind of stall. So once again, to reiterate, the usual slowdowns are going to be self-employment, which will likely be asked for tax returns, or you have to use paycheck stubs, PLAD verification failure, which will require manual bank proof, or multiple creditor payoffs, which usually take longer than a simple lump sum deposit. You also have inconsistent information, a mismatched employer name or address that could also trigger a manual review. If you want the fastest approval possible, link your paycheck directly to Sofi Money before applying. Borrowers with active Sofi accounts consistently get funded faster because the system already recognizes their deposits. Once Sofi approves your loan, they'll send your funds either directly to your account that you chose, or if you choose direct pay, they'll send it straight to your creditors. If you're consolidating debt, this is a great feature because it ensures the money goes to where it's supposed to go, and Sofi rewards that with an extra rate discount. After funding, your first payment usually hits within 30 days. Sofi's app makes it easy for you to track your balance, add extra payments, and even see your FICO trends over time. You also have the option to choose whether or not you want an origination fee. I was offered to pay the origination fee, and that would come out of my loan, and I would have a lower APR, or I can have a higher APR and no fee. There's also no prepayment penalties. So that means if you want to throw extra money at your balance every month, you can, and you'll pay less interest over time. So guys, even if you look great on paper, there are 4 issues that completely derail your Sofi application. First, unverifiable income. If your bank deposits don't match what you reported, Sofi will pause your loan. Second, high revolving utilization. Even if your score is high, balances near your limit raise red flags. Third, too many recent hard pulls. Applying everywhere at once can make Sofi think you're desperate for cash. 4, inconsistent personal information, and that's differences between your credit file and your application, like addresses can trigger fraud flags. And while these seem minor, I have seen people lose approvals worth tens of thousands of dollars just because of them. So here's my recommendation. Update your personal information across all bureaus and link your main checking account. And you want to avoid any new credit applications for at least 30 days before applying. If you take nothing else from my experience, remember these key lessons. Sofi values trust over perfection. You don't need to have an 800 plus score. You just need to be consistent. Like for me, I had an 800 plus credit score and still got denied 3 times until I had a certain number of payments on my current personal loans. And even then still, I had to prove that I had the income to make the payments. If you guys take a look at the loan here, I actually did a screenshot of it. It shows the amount, so $52,000 for a 7-year term. The monthly payment would be $1,140.99, and then that would be an APR of 19.56%. Once again, the one main difference between this application and the previous ones is that Sofi actually offered this to me. They had already pre-approved me. So checking your rates won't hurt. So if Sofi offers you the opportunity to get a loan, you more than likely will get approved. It'll all be based off what your income will show. So if you see that pre-approval, then I would act fast when you're ready. Offers can expire and rate floors can change within weeks. Again, I worked underwriting in the past. Sometimes things just happen and they'll take on riskier profiles, or maybe, they'll be stricter. It just depends on what the business operation is looking for at the time. I had never had a pre-approval offer before, so that let me know that at this current moment in time, my credit profile was intriguing. You definitely want to keep your utilization near 0 before applying when it comes to credit cards. It shows lenders that you manage credit well, and you don't want to ignore your DTI. Income stability really can outweigh your raw credit score. And finally, use your loan as a tool, not a crutch. Debt can either drain your wealth or it can accelerate it. And that's the difference when it comes to this. You want to use strategy. I do have the income to support paying this loan. I would not be stretched thin by any means of the imagination. So for me, this wasn't something I was looking for. I just so happened to get a notification. I saw it and I just so happened to take the opportunity. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. SoFi may not be perfect, but if you play your cards right, it can open doors that traditional banks would usually slam. If you want to see a full list of personal loan lenders for individuals with bad credit, I'll link that right here. I'll also link it at the end of the video. It could save you hours of frustration and time knowing exactly which lenders you should be looking at right now. And if this helped you in any way, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I post guides like this all the time, breaking down how to get approved, how to get your goals funded, and how to build wealth the smart way. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and you have a wonderful day.